Well, welcome to Your In Depth, where we walk through and break down our favorite fictional universes. I got Evan with me.
I like dice.
You like what?
I like dice.
Dice. Oh yeah, because you have like just a bunch of them on your desk, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we are going to like I said, we walk through and break down our favorite fictional universes here. So if you're new with us, that's what we do. And today we are covering the Clone Wars Season 2, Episodes 11 and 12. Trying to think. I don't know. Oh, this is the Star Wars episode. So if anybody's just like checking this out and you haven't heard the news, there is like a little bit of Star Wars news. So
yep,
Evan, I'll let you do that one.
We've got Tales of the Underworld.
Yeah.
Being released here soon, coming on.
Yeah, on May 4th.
May
so
4th.
Here in another month.
Yep. Going into. I'm assuming it's just going to be another like 6-episode little mini-series like they did with Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire.
Right.
Just delving into a couple more, like, truthfully, it's like side characters that a lot of fans are fans of, giving a little more of their story. From what I saw, it looks like Cad Bane is going to be one of those characters. It looked like a young Cad Bane from what I could tell, as well as Asajj Ventress. It looked like kind of like an Asajj Ventress after the Clone Wars, potentially during the time of the Empire. Or I shouldn't say
wonder if they're going to do a similar...
It looks like after the Clone Wars, but I don't know if it's like during the events of episodes 4, 5, and 6, or if it's during the events of, say, like Star Wars Rebels.
Right.
Couldn't say.
I do think it's kind of interesting that, well, you saying that, because it was kind of like that with Tales of the Empire. The first 3 series, episodes of the series, was that one Ahsoka? No.
The last 3 was Ahsoka in Tales of the Jedi.
Right. What was Tales of the Empire? What did that start off with?
Tales of the Empire had Barriss Offee for 3 of them. Right,
but that was like the latter half.
Right. The first half was Morgan Elsbeth.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
because we got that shot of General Grievous, because it jumped back to that episode, which we'll get to at some point. We'll get to later as we cover the Clone Wars, but it jumped to a specific episode.
My point with that was the first 3 episodes were it was Morgan Elsbeth before we see her.
Right.
And then the latter half was a character after we've seen them. So it's kind of interesting that it looks like that's what this is going to do now too with the format. So it probably is going to be 3 and 3 where it's like, here's
that's what I'm
Cad Bane before we see him in the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
and then here's
from what I saw,
after.
It was just like essentially a trailer for the show.
Well, yeah.
It showed what looked like a young Cad Bane. It actually showed some others of his race as well that he might have been close with before becoming a bounty hunter. Truthfully, it looked like this was a Cad Bane before taking up bounty hunting, or maybe like his early days of bounty hunting, and really how he got his start is kind of the feeling or like the vibe that I got from it. But then, I'm assuming the second half is going to be an Asajj Ventress after the Clone Wars, during the reign of the Empire, all that. Yeah. And just get into her story more.
Yeah, but anyway, that was just a little bit that I saw this last week, and Evan and I talked about it a little bit, but, whenever we see something like that before we record, we just mention it just in case any listeners haven't seen that. But my guess is that if you're watching or listening to a Star Wars podcast, you're probably in the loop. But still,
another thing I did see as well, and I don't know if this was a fan thing or if this was like official Star Wars news, right? It was talking about the second season of the Ahsoka show. It was saying they have casted Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, apparently Natalie Portman as well. And then they're bringing back, I can't remember the actress's name. She played the young Ahsoka in that TV show. I can't think of the actual actress's name, but they brought her as well as, I don't think they're bringing Tamara Morrison in for it, but there's some big names, like Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, potentially Natalie Portman. possibly reprising their roles.
That'd be really cool.
And
Any
Star
of that
Wars
where it's like
some,
that many
some, like,
of them.
flashback stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Whenever it's that many of them, I do greet it with skepticism on if it's actual thing. But I hope it is. That sounds pretty neat. But
well, and of course we've seen Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen doing more with Star Wars anyways here in the last several years. So it wouldn't surprise me if both of them came back to reprise roles. The one that the one that kind of surprised me that I saw is where I'm like, I'm not sure if it's fan fiction or not, is Natalie Portman. I don't know if that's actually happening or if that's just someone's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
That's why I prefaced with, like, I don't know if this is actual news or just like a fan thing. But that possibility is there. We can look into that more and let you guys
hopefully
know.
Hopefully there'll be further developments that are either prove it right or wrong. But let's get into our Clone Wars coverage. Before we go further, I do want to point out, I've said this a couple times throughout other episodes, just wanted to let you guys know that from right now when we record till when I plan on publishing it, it's roughly 2 weeks. I also want to point out that the timestamp is 15 minutes right now because we chatted for probably 8. All of that to say, if you want to access those extended, uncensored, and early episodes, we do have a Patreon, and that is the reward there. You get the you get the episodes early, uncensored, and extended. So check that out if you're interested. But we're going to get into the Clone Wars Season 2, Episode 11. The title of it is Lightsaber Lost. It's Evan's absolute favorite episode ever.
This episode
and it's
sucks.
one of mine that, like, if the
this episode sucks.
I'm not going to go with this any further. It's a filler episode.
Yeah.
It seems like a waste of time, if I'm being blunt. But we're covering it nonetheless. Can't imagine we're going to spend a lot of time on it. It's a lot of action sequences too, and when we cover stuff like that, it's more of like just getting the highlights.
Yeah.
Because
unless there's
we're not
anything
play
that's
for
like
play. It's
unless there's something very specific, like a very specific detail that either of us warrants, commenting on. A lot, as anybody that's listened to the podcast before, action sequences get kind of brushed over real quick.
Right.
But so I will preface though, like Jacob, like this is, I'm not a fan of this episode. Okay. Like Jacob said, it's very filler. It's just, it doesn't seem to really fit into the Clone Wars story. I personally, I think it's just an unnecessary episode to put in, because at least with some other episodes where if it's following like Padme with the Senate or something along those lines, it's like that's like the political side of the Clone Wars and everything going on, so that fits. But this doesn't, in my opinion, doesn't seem to really fit in the Clone Wars story.
Right. Hey, I'm going to interrupt you real quick because I just realized something. You noticed the lighting on my camera? Mm-hmm. Also, just so you guys know, we don't do video for the podcast, but Evan and I chat over video so that we can tell when the other is going to talk, and then they can still interrupt the other. Of course. Anyway,
so you need to quit talking right now because.
Yeah. No. So anyway, I noticed that when I take a drink of my drink here, it reflects and makes it get really bright. So watch.
He's like an angel. It glows upon the face.
No, it adjusted the brightness because of the reflection off my can. That's all. But anyway, so I get what you're going for, but all I heard was ear there.
Let me turn up the monitor real quick.
Oh God, stop it.
No, so I turned up the monitor dial here on my little box, right, for the heads for the mic. Because when I'm playing D&D with some friends, if I go to look at another screen to describe something and I kind of pull away from the mic, where it was before, they wouldn't be able to hear me. while I'm in the middle of describing something or what have you. So I turned up the monitor to pick me up as I turn away to check one thing or the other.
Nice. Yeah, that's one of the bad parts. Not necessarily a bad part, but one of the things to be aware of with a condenser mic is that it's a very...
You got to find
whatever.
like the sweet spot on that monitor so that way it's not like ear rapey, but at the same time you can still hear them plenty fine.
Right.
Anyways, though, episode 11.
We need to get into the episode. By the way, it is late, and so if we're not on task here, honestly, though, if we were to label this podcast as actually being on task and not dumb, we'd be lying. So it's fine.
I like
this is
to
how
think,
we just. But we're tired, so we're going to be kind of.
I like
goofy,
to think
but,
there are definitely educational purposes with this podcast to inform people about Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, whatever else we cover in the future.
Okay, I was going to go a different direction.
But at the same time, I feel like the dumb moments heavily outweigh the informative pieces.
Very much. Anyway, we will get into the episode.
Yeah.
So it starts off with a quote. What is that quote, Evan?
Yep. So our quote for Lightsaber Lost is, "Easy isn't always simple."
Yeah.
Which I feel like is not true. Easy is very often simple. That's why it's easy.
See, but the way that you said that is different than the quote.
Easy isn't always simple. No,
Yeah.
I still feel like easy is almost always simple.
See, but you're saying almost, and the other time you said mostly or something. That still implies that there needs to be 1 in 1,000 of easy not being simple for this to be work, for this phrase, this quote to work.
But the way they have it in the episode makes it seem like easy is very often not simple. And I feel like...
Anyway, so we get a narrating crawl. It says, war creates opportunity... I'm keeping going. Shut up.
In my experience...
War creates opportunity for the criminal underworld. Ruthless mercenaries conspire with the Separatists to disrupt and exploit the unstable situation within the Republic. Now, Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano descend into treacherous gangster havens in an effort to find a corrupt and vile arms dealer who is buying weapons on the black market and selling them to the Republic's enemies. Also,
Man,
I misspoke.
You really just wanted to get away from that, didn't you?
I did. Never mind about what I was going to make a joke, but anyway.
But this is a serious thing for the episode, though, because it's speaking about the underworld, right, going on within the Star Wars universe, the black market, all that kind of stuff.
The woke market. Sorry, a couple of friends and I have been joking lately about that whole, like when people are super mad because, like an actor of a certain race are casted, and then it's just like, oh, it's turning woke. It's so dumb.
Right.
But now we've been interchangeably using that.
Oh my God.
But anyway.
Anyways, the one thing I will say about this episode that kind of ties to the Clone Wars and actually fits is this whole black market weapon sales thing. Okay. That part of it, I think, fits because it highlights the Jedi's inability to continue investigating and bringing a halt to corruption and crime and that sort of thing that they did before the Clone Wars. And so on that side of it, just like this opening part, I think does fit with the Clone Wars, but the majority of the rest of the episode just feels very out of place.
Useless?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so as he said with that, we open up on the Coruscant underworld. Anakin and Ahsoka are in search of an arms dealer, kind of like our narrator had said. Anakin goes inside someplace and leaves Ahsoka to stand guard. Some stuff kind of goes down. There's a commotion in the building, and then people just rush out because I think there's blaster fire, or maybe you heard of the lightsaber, but some stuff went down. Right. And then people rush past Ahsoka, and as they do, she looks down and notices that her lightsaber's gone. She notices somebody else that's in that crowd that just rushed past her has pickpocketed or swiped it off of her.
Right.
And then Anakin comes back out and she kind of plays it off, but she continues to like search.
Right. And I do want to say as well at this point, because it just says they're in the underground, right, of Coruscant.
Uh-huh.
But what I think a lot of people don't know is that the underground of Coruscant is extremely vague. Because Coruscant, though it is, yes, a planet... I
mean, the entirety of it is covered with a city.
Well, not only is the entirety covered by a city, but that city is thousands of stories high.
Huh.
So
yeah.
there's an episode... I'm sure you see it multiple times throughout all of the Clone Wars, but the one I'm thinking of specifically, there's an episode, I believe, in the Bad Batch, where it's on Coruscant. And you see this rock protruding up in the middle of like a city street.
Oh, right? Yeah.
That rock is actually the highest peak of the highest mountain of Coruscant.
Mm-hmm.
And we just see about like the top 10 feet of it poking up along the surface level of Coruscant.
Yeah, so with that,
so,
that kind of does show the potential of how much is underneath.
Right. So when they say the underground of Coruscant, you're talking about like thousands of different levels.
Yeah.
And because when you get to Season 7 of the Clone Wars, where we get a little more underground stuff, we actually do see a spot where it's just this giant hole on the surface of Coruscant that's actually a passageway for ships to go up and down the different levels of Coruscant to dock at different docking stations and all that kind of stuff. And with Coruscant, the deeper you go, the further you go down in floors or in levels, the more sketchy it gets. Just as a heads up for people listening, the further down you go, the more sketchy it gets. And so it's like... something to keep in mind with this as well, with this whole black market thing and her lightsaber being taken, is like a lot of it takes place, if I'm not mistaken, up on like the upper levels of Coruscant. But if whoever took her lightsaber, if they decided to just go down, right, into the belly of the beast, like good luck finding them.
Yeah, really.
Good luck getting that thing back.
No. But They leave, they return to the Jedi Temple, and Ahsoka goes into the library and talks to Jocasta Nu.
My other question real quick as well is, how did Anakin not notice that her lightsaber is gone? It's not like she's wearing a robe. It's not like she's wearing like an Obi-Wan or Qui-Gon Jinn or Anakin robe from episodes 1 or 2.
Yeah.
How does he just not notice?
Pure luck on her part.
Sorry, just kind of like an offhanded question, but like how... Yeah. Like, she doesn't wear very much clothing. She doesn't. How does he not notice a giant freaking silver lightsaber not sitting on her waist?
Yeah. You would think it's kind of noticeable, but somehow he does not notice, and she avoids detection on that part. So she is talking in the library, and they're trying to find records on it's like, okay, let's identify who took it so that you can kind of try to narrow it down and, and stuff. And then Jocasta Nu directs her to Master Sinube, who is very, very old.
Very, 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 very. He's old. He's like on the verge of retirement.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
But he tries helping her, and she's like, it was a race from a water planet, and he's like, oh, so you could say that he was a very fishy gentleman. It's just like, oh my god.
Definitely playing the dad jokes.
Right. But actually, as we usually take a sponsor break,
in between
midway
episodes?
through the episodes, we're going to actually go ahead and do it right now.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Master Sinube's Grand Book of Puns. I've written so many that they're not just bad, they're terrible.
Anyways,
goodness.
there's our sponsor
Oh,
for the
goodness.
episode. Go check out the Grand Book of Puns.
One thing I will say
But anyway.
is just something to keep in the back of your guys' minds as we continue, not just covering this episode, but continue in Star Wars and get into new, as we finish, once we finish the Clone Wars and we get past episode 3 and whatnot, keep Master Snube in mind, right? We do see him reappear quite a ways down the road.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he will
In
pop
one
up
form
again.
or another.
Yep, he will pop up again. So just
He
kind of
will
like
get pickled.
anybody that's watched the Kenobi series knows what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
you know what I'm talking about. I won't elaborate too much further,
Yeah,
but
yeah. In case anybody has not seen it yet, we won't spoil anything. But we do see Master Snube pop up again. I don't actually remember if he pops up again in the Clone Wars TV show or not. I don't remember him.
might,
but he might.
yeah, I don't.
Might be like a background character.
Yeah.
Or no, what? No, he does. He does pop up later in the Clone Wars. I do remember.
Okay. Well,
if you just want to put a little note, because I kind of want to tell you, because once I say it, you're gonna be like, oh yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so we'll return to 3025. Okay, yeah, I know what you're. Yep.
Past that part, though, I don't remember if he pops up again. Like
Yeah.
I can't think of another scene where we do see him, but we do see him at least
We're
once
covering
more.
the
in Clone
entire
Wars.
thing, so we will find out.
We will indeed.
So they find out who it is. He's actually very helpful
Yeah.
in that, and he finds that it's one of those types of whatever race they are, and its name is Banabu, Banabu, something like that.
And I'm trying to think. So we do actually get the name of the race that
Okay.
Master Snube gives us.
Because one
'Cause
of
he
them
talks
is
about
within Cad Bane's crew.
Right.
I don't remember his name, but it's like something starts with an R.
So I think it's actually Ahsoka is telling Master Snube he was a Patrolian.
Like jelly?
Patrolian, Patrolian.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the race of the figure that took her lightsaber. And you saying Cad Bane's crew just made me think, like, is this the same guy that we see later on Cad Bane's crew? I don't think it is, but
It's a different
okay.
name.
I
Plus,
just
the
couldn't
guy
remember.
on Cad Bane's crew has
That's
like a eye thing,
Yep,
eye
that's
patch.
right.
I know because I've been animating him for the last freaking week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm taking on a project. That's probably, I don't care about sharing it on the podcast.
Yeah.
No, I'm taking a creative fan fiction work from somebody that does Star Wars fan fictions on Reddit, not the creepy kind. And
Don't
I'm
lie,
adapting
Jacob.
it
It's just
into a-
one giant dungeon, okay?
no, it is not. It's a small one. No, but I'm taking it and adapting it into an animation. And so I'm trying to figure that out. It's been going on for a while. I'm kind of struggling with it. But it starts off with Cad Bane's crew, so I've been animating all of them, and he's one of them. And
Gotcha.
that's how I know that it's not the same one, because it is a different name.
Gotcha.
But
and I will
in
say,
the
too, though,
episode-
here in the episode, going through, because we actually get to see a few pages of the potential suspects for who took Ahsoka's lightsaber here. It kind of cracks me up that the Jedi have this extensive, I don't know what you call it, like this extensive archive
registry
of criminals, right? Who are right there on Coruscant, where the Jedi Temple is, and they're all just milling about free. Like, it makes me, truthfully, it makes me think of, like, you have, like, 20 criminals, whether it's for murder, drug dealing, you know, stealing, grand theft auto, what have you, whatever the crime. And they're all just hanging out in front of the police precinct, and the police pass by them every day, and they have mounds of evidence sitting on their desks to arrest and convict
do
these
nothing
guys,
about it.
and they just don't do anything about it.
It's
And because
interesting.
it's like, we know that there's like 10,000 plus Jedi across the galaxy, right? How many of them are just sitting in the Jedi Temple doing nothing all day. Like just grab like 6 or 7 of the older Jedi that are like, for the most part, done going out into the field and doing work in the field and whatnot, right? Some of the Jedi that aren't fighting in the wars currently, just round a couple of them up. Just get a couple checks in those boxes.
Yeah. But anyway,
like he goes through like several pages.
He does, yeah. Progressing the episode, they find out who it is, and to Ahsoka's disappointment, Master Sunube wants to join her. Now, this is kind of like the first bit of action that he's probably seen in a very good while. Because as Evan said, he's kind of, near retirement. He's kind of, I think, probably rendered a bit useless. You know, people are like, no, you're too slow. Or something like that. And
Ahsoka even refers to him as
kind of like
Gramps.
our 4th grade teacher to Evan. Nah, you're kind of slow. Are you that slow?
I don't even remember who our 4th grade teacher is.
That wasn't the point of it. It was just, I was joking.
Nope. I whatever you were trying, whatever joke you were making, right over.
I was calling you slow, and yes, that checks out. Okay, go ahead.
Yep, didn't pick up on that at all.
All right.
But no, it just cracks me up because you were saying like he's like old and whatnot, and Ahsoka even refers to him as like, all right, come on, Gramps, let's get this done.
Yeah, she calls him Gramps.
Yeah.
But they search around and they ask where they could buy a lightsaber, because obviously when he stole it, he's looking to sell it,
right?
More than likely. And they end up finding Banabu's men, who direct Ahsoka and Sunube to him. Once they find out that they're Jedi, they're kind of like a little more fearful, and they're like, all right, fine, yeah, he's over here or whatever. Sunube does some mind tricks on a front desk person at the hotel that Banabu is staying at, and then tells Ahsoka to calm herself, as if she does, she'd be able to sense Banabu's anxiety. Like, calm yourself, you'll be able to kind of sense the anxiety of others and then not calm.
And a recurring theme that we'll see in this episode as well is Master Sunube continuously telling Ahsoka to simply like slow down, like take a minute. You're in a rush.
Yeah.
Like, get control of your emotions, get control of your feelings. Just take a second, and things will happen.
Mm-hmm. And they find him, get info out of him, where he sold the lightsaber and all that, and it ends up being right into the hands of a killer. The name is Knack Movers, which sounds like a moving company. Just throw that out there.
Welcome to Knack Movers. You got anything that you need moved? We're the crew for you.
Crap, I should have made an ad for that. I don't know how I didn't. Anyway. That would have been so much better than Master Sin... Whatever. Anyway, but they show up... All right,
end the episode, re-record an ad.
I'm gonna. All right, bye. Deuces. No.
No, they get the name.
They go to locate this guy, and they show up, and he's dead. His girlfriend or something is there, and says that she's scared. Ahsoka searches around the room, the apartment, and another girl comes out and has the lightsaber, threatening Ahsoka.
Because as they go through the room too, like it looks clearly like ransacked. Like it looks like a fight broke out there. It's a mess. Even though like the lock on the door is broken. And so it's like clearly something happened here, and then they find like the dead body.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But she threatens Ahsoka before running away.
Because
she learns that she's a Jedi.
Girlfriend here as well. She always threw me off because she's like one of those races where the eyes close, like ours close horizontally, right? But hers close vertically.
Yeah.
And that always like threw me off.
She's like insanely ugly.
Well, you know.
I can't stand this character. But anyway, he's dead. She runs away because she learns that Ahsoka's a Jedi. So Ahsoka radios Sunube, saying who the assailant is, and replies with, "Sorry, I threw myself off with my notes."
Oh boy. While you get yourself back together, one thing that I thought was a little funny, at least in this episode, is that when Ahsoka finds the other chick, the one that has her lightsaber, before she realizes Ahsoka's a Jedi, she like pulls it and tries to like light it to use it, and she can't figure out how to turn it on. Like she doesn't even. Which part of it's just like she's just an idiot, right? Because it's really just a button. It's like a little switch on the lightsaber. But on the other hand, I kind of like that they put that detail in there because it kind of goes to show how little your common people or even the criminals really know about lightsabers and how they work and how to even use one. Just the simple
it's like
fact
they hold
that
them as this kind of like crazy weapon and all these things, but they don't know anything.
Right,
about
but it just like the simple fact that this criminal does not know how to turn one on.
Yeah.
I feel like gives me a little bit of hope that the Jedi know what they're doing. At least the common everyday person does not know how to use a lightsaber.
So
whether effectively or ineffectively, they don't know how to use one.
So Ahsoka radios Sunube saying who the assailant is. She says, "Yeah, I'm chasing her," and Sunube is basically like, "A girl." No, like something about how he says, "Oh, it's a girl," like that kind of thing.
So the assailant is female.
Yeah, that's what he says. So I wrote, I was like, and he replies with, "A girl, gross," and then I put an asterisk gag. And so I forgot that I wrote that, It's so dumb. Like it's brain dead. But reading it just made me lose it a bit.
Well, I think that's kind of funny at the same time, though, because it's like, if you think back to when the original trilogy came out back in the 70s, like during Vietnam, and it was George Lucas's like way to protest the Vietnam War, essentially. Like that time period, like the mentality towards like women actually like working or being criminals or what have you, right? Like just like that mentality people had back then. Some people, I should say, had back then towards that's like. Fair. It just kind of makes me think of that as like, dang, Sunube, get with the times. What? Like, come on, dude.
Yeah, don't let him around Mace Windu.
So Ahsoka is chasing the woman who now has her lightsaber. The one that they were told is a killer who bought it off of the little fish guy. Right, and they're going across the rooftop. She's radioed to Master Sunube, informing him about what's going on, and we get a bit of like a parkour chase scene where like there's not really much I don't think to really talk about. It's just like your typical chase, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those like it's not quite fighting action, but it's just one of those action scenes that there's not really a point in doing the whole play-by-play.
Yeah, it's one of those that we mentioned earlier. But Sunube sits with the girlfriend lady and notices that she's very nervous. He points out that Knack Movers was likely poisoned. He says he contacted the authorities and also comments, again, how nervous she is.
Right.
He's suspicious of her. Eventually, he accuses her of being in league with the bounty hunter. She contacts the other one, as she runs away, so they understand that they're kind of
Well, and a point here as well. Master Sunube does put like a tracker on her back as well, because like even early on into his conversation of talking with her, like obviously being a Jedi, like he's doing a little bit of like mind reading, through this conversation and whatnot. Like something's like you said, like something's definitely up with her.
Yeah,
and so like early on, he does put that tracker on her back just to like make sure. Make sure nothing... Like, if she does flee, they can still find her.
Yeah, I forgot about that detail. So, she runs, gets in a vehicle, and picks up the bounty hunter, leaving Ahsoka behind. There's a lot of action kind of throughout this, but eventually they catch up with them. As, like Evan said, there was a tracking device on the woman.
Yeah.
Another fight happens, ending up on a train. A hostage situation happens, eventually ending with Sunube smacking the lightsaber thief, just full-on decking her, and
I
getting it back.
Do you want to just rewind just a little bit here, back to that whole like chase scene, which eventually leads to them catching up with the part you're at. Yeah. And it's just one thing that I just kind of took note of is In this chase scene, at one point, Ahsoka is chasing the woman with her lightsaber, and they're jumping across these like floating, almost like propaganda or like these floating screens, right? And on one of them, this feels intentional that they included this into the episode. It's one of Chancellor Palpatine saying, "I am confident that the Jedi are doing their very best to ensure the safety of every citizen in the Republic."
Mm-hmm.
And he says the accusations that the Jedi created the Clone Wars to give themselves more power over the government is absurd, and I will not stand for it. Because as any Star Wars fan knows, right? Like, hey, if you haven't watched Star Wars, guys, spoiler alert, okay? Spoiler alert. Chancellor Palpatine is the Emperor. He's evil, right? And he overthrows the Jedi. And I think this is a brilliant little detail to add into this episode. Not specifically this episode, but just to add into an episode on Coruscant. Because either A, the rumors about the Jedi creating the Clone Wars are already out there on Coruscant, and there's animosity towards the Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Or and him doing this sows that seed.
Him doing this, exactly, sows the seed for the future quote-unquote Jedi treason that occurs, right? So this is a brilliant little detail to add into an episode on Coruscant to just show the manipulative power of Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
Because with him saying this, he's saying, I am certain, I'm sure, I believe the Jedi are not evil. And so when the Jedi quote-unquote turn evil and try and kill the Chancellor, he gets to play the, I never saw this coming. I thought they were on our side the whole time. And he gets to group himself in with the mass population insanely surprised by this treason of the Jedi. And it just plays into his masterful manipulation of the population.
Yeah.
I just thought it was. I just thought it was like it's a very minor detail, and if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss it.
Yeah,
but it's
a
very
important
one to put into it. Again, not specifically this episode, just an episode on Coruscant.
Yeah. So she has her lightsaber back now, and the episode ends with her giving a lesson to the younglings about how their lightsaber is their life and some other dumb stuff, and now we can move on to better episodes. Actually, a very good episode is what we can start. We can start a good arc that partially feels bad to begin in a single episode, but not
it's
finish,
kind of unfortunate that they, not that they, but that we have to group the next episode with this episode. Before we go to the next episode, though, one last thing I want to say on the lightsaber. On the Lightsaber Lost episode. The other than that little piece about the Chancellor Palpatine's speech to the people and whatnot, right here at the end where it talks about when Ahsoka gets her lightsaber back and she comes in, she talks to Master Yoda, right, and he kind of has her give this lesson to some of the younglings. How you were saying, like the lightsaber is your life, stupid nonsense, right? But I kind of like this little detail that they put in here because it just kind of shows that the Jedi, I don't know, it's like just the older teaching the younger from their experience, right? I don't know. It's just something that I can't really like put definitive words on it. I just kind of like the detail in there of like having, because even though Ahsoka's she's barely older than a youngling, right? She's barely a Padawan, right? But still, just having her teach these younglings a life lesson that she has just now learned herself, and like sharing that experience with these younglings, even though, in all honesty, like this is a blemish on her record. She lost her lightsaber. That's a big deal, But being able to use that to teach others to hopefully not make the same mistake. I just kind of like that detail that they include in there.
Yeah.
I enjoy that little piece of it.
Yeah. You know,
Also,
I'm actually surprised.
Master Sinube's tail, the very end of his tail looks
yeah.
like one of those horse brushes. I just wanted to put that in there as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it does.
How that plays into anything else in that entire episode or anything Star Wars going forward, no idea. But I just feel like I had to comment on it.
So I'm actually surprised that we got as much out of that episode as we did. There were some pretty good notes, I think, that you brought up. And I don't know.
Yeah.
It was something. The episode still kind of sucks, but
I will say I think the most important part of that entire episode is that little detail of Chancellor Palpatine talking about the Jedi and the Clone Wars. That's the most important part of that entire episode. The rest of it just, for the most part, just feels unnecessary. Like the whole lost my lightsaber, got to track it down thing. Just,
Yeah. But usually right here we have an ad. Same thing. I make up something every episode. So, hey, come back next week to see what I do. But I do want to take this little break in episodes to point out that we have a couple of goals that we try to reach. We have set it up to where every 1,000 downloads, we do a blooper reel. So some of the other stuff that is yet to be determined if it'll ever see the light of day might make it into that. Probably not. I don't know. But there's plenty of stuff other than that could. And so every 1,000 downloads gets a blooper reel release. So be sure to, pass around the podcast if you have anybody who likes Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or any sort of goofy, just, I don't know, fictional universes that maybe we'll eventually cover. Who knows? The other thing is if you are on Apple, we set up a goal to have, when we reach 25 Apple Podcast reviews, we will do a live stream so that we can cover whatever we're covering, but also talk to any of you in the meantime. So those are the goals that we're going towards. You can help out.
Don't forget about the other goal, Jacob. If anybody wants to hear Jacob finish his sea shanty that he made for the Rings of Power episode from once this is out last week, we need to reach 500. What is on Spotify? 500.
Is Spotify? Yeah.
What is it? 500.
Okay, so we're doing that.
Subscribers or whatever it is on Spotify. If anybody wants to hear fully finished sea shanty from Jacob.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to explain that one.
Yeah, if you guys are curious,
check out last week's episode.
Go check out last week's episode of Rings of Power, and you'll understand what that is referring to.
Anyway, so yeah, those are the goals. So help us towards that, and those are the things that have to deal with it. I don't know what I'm saying. We're going to move on. So now we are covering Season 2, Episode 12, The Mandalore Plot.
Yes.
What do we get for a quote?
Our quote for the Mandalore plot is, if you ignore the past, you jeopardize the future, which actually feels quite appropriate for something involving Mandalore. With the past of Mandalore and, their history with the Jedi and all that kind of stuff, that little quote feels appropriate for a Mandalore arc.
Yeah. But we get the narrator crawl saying, diplomacy or deception. The Council of Neutral Systems speaks for over 1,500 worlds who want to stay out of the war, but rumors have reached the Republic Senate suggesting that the Council's new leader, Duchess Satine of Mandalore, is secretly building her own army to fight for the Separatist cause. Now Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi has been sent to Mandalore to discover the truth behind these claims.
Indeed. And to elaborate just a little bit on these neutral systems, because there's...
List all of them.
Good luck. The little narrative intro crawl here just kind of comments on it very briefly. And we don't really get a whole lot on these neutral systems, right? throughout the Clone Wars. Obviously, Mandalore is one of them. We do find, and all the way back to the very first episode of the Clone Wars with Yoda meeting with, what are they called? I can't think what they're called. The guy that owns Anakin and Shmi in Episode 1, his race.
I don't know what his race is.
Oh God, I can't think what they're called now. Twidarians.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Even the planet of Twidaria was part of the neutral planets until
I just drew the connection to what you were talking about.
Season 1, Episode 1 of the Clone Wars, where Yoda, has his little competition with Ventress, to essentially prove the Jedi's worth and their ability to protect Twidaria. But all these neutral systems are exactly that. They're neutral. They don't want to be on the Separatists. They are part of the Republic, but they don't want to contribute to the war. They don't want to contribute funds. They don't want to contribute any sort of troops. They don't want to have military bases on their planets. They don't want the war to come to their planets, so on and so forth, right? And if I'm not mistaken, Naboo is actually part of that as well, which is kind of strange because if you really think about it, the war kind of started on Naboo in Episode 1 of Star Wars. Like it's 10. That's like 10 years before the events of the Clone Wars, but that really is like this. In my opinion, that really is like the start of the Clone Wars. Like we don't have the clones yet, but like that's when the Jedi really first get into more of a militaristic role. With the Gungans and the Naboo and fighting off a droid army. So if I'm not mistaken, Naboo's part of this neutral, coalition. But I think it's kind of weird that like the war effectively started on Naboo. But yeah, this is just like. Again, like 1,000+ different planets across an entire galaxy. And just like going forward, if you really like listening to what's being said, you'll hear more about these neutral planets in future episodes. At which point we can elaborate on some of those a little more. But just like for those listening or for those watching the Clone Wars for the first time, or if you've never paid attention to this particular part of the Clone Wars and you're watching back through, just kind of keep your ear open for these neutral systems because some of them might surprise you. Some of them that you kind of hear like a casual planet listed over here that sounds familiar from some other Star Wars media, might surprise you as actually being part of this coalition. And if I'm not mistaken, actually Alderaan, I think, is part of that coalition as well of neutral systems.
Well, so, and that is something that I really enjoy about these, like, just vast fictional universes, like the ones we're talking about covering, is because there are all those interconnected things, because it's not just a simple story, it's several stories set in a well-thought-out universe.
Yeah,
and so it's kind of cool.
Especially with something like Star Wars, where it's, like, it is as big as it is, there's always going to be more stories to tell. There's always going to be more lines to be drawn between these two, like, initially what looks like two completely separate things. There's probably some sort of connection there that we just don't know of yet.
Yeah. So we start with Obi-Wan looking all cute, arriving on Mandalore.
Always.
A guard escorts him inside. Oh, yeah, always. A guard escorts him inside, saying that Duchess Satine awaits him. He's greeted by Minister Almec, and they talk about rumors that Mandalore has turned against the Republic, like we kind of got an overview of.
And I will say as well, this is something I do with Tiffany, my girlfriend, when we're watching some sort of show that I've seen before.
I pause it and interrupt it?
Yeah. I don't give her any spoilers, but if there's like a character we don't like, I'm like, we don't like that character. And she's like, why? I was like, you'll find out later, in either a later episode or later on in this episode, but we don't like that character. We don't like this character.
That was my that was my approach to meeting you in kindergarten.
Rude.
I was like, hey, I don't like him.
And here we are 24 years later or whatever.
Oh, holy crap, yeah. Anyway,
But yeah, this Minister whatever the heck you called him, we don't like him.
Almanac.
Yep, Minister Almanac, we don't like him.
The minister, though, says that their warriors were exiled to their moon of Concordia.
Yeah.
He then says that they're dead, though.
Right, and he
but
even
Obi-Wan
comments
says,
too that like their violent, like their violence is in the past, like their war, that mentality, is in the past. Who they once were is no longer who they are.
Unlike Master Sinube,
that
boy has some opinions.
Well, but the important part of this little conversation here, though, is Obi-Wan comments that in recent history he fought someone in Mandalorian armor, and if Mandalore's violent past is actually in the past, who is this guy?
Who's this Jango Fett fella? Yeah. So he brings that up, and Almec replies that basically he's a bounty hunter. He doesn't even know where he got the armor. Like that's irrelevant. He's a outlier, basically.
Yeah.
Satine then enters the room, and Obi-Wan calls her more beautiful than before. When they initially met.
Obi-Wan, the negotiator, the flatterer. I was trying to think of more words to go along with that, just make a whole string of them.
I could see the gears turning and failing too.
Like smoke coming out of my ears.
There was. I saw it. It's crazy. Your
rough.
Smoke detector went off. I had to trim out a whole segment. It's crazy. Anyway, they talk about why he's there. A Mandalorian attacked their ship, so he's investigating. That's the reason that kind of brought him to that. They walk through the city talking about their past. Mandalore is committed to peace, yet there's a group called Death Watch that is set on violence.
Well,
Satine says that they are tracking them down, and they found out that they're on that moon, Concordia. So.
Well, and them even saying, like, I'm sorry, you said something and it triggered something in my mind, and I can't remember what it was. The Satine talking about their, like, being a peaceful people now, right? Anybody that's, like, within the Clone Wars TV show itself, that line doesn't really mean much. But for those of us that, like, get into some of the history and stuff of the galaxy, that has more weight to it than you might realize. There's, like, whole Mandalorian wars in the history of Star Wars against the Jedi, against other planets, things like that. The Mandalorians were, like, this warrior people. I kind of equate them to, like, future Spartans from Sparta, right? Like, the warrior race, they train for war, they train for violence, the ultimate soldier type of thing to them. And we even do find, like, this Mandalore that we are seeing now with Obi-Wan and Satine, right? This is a very new Mandalore. This whole, like, peaceful people thing has not been around for very long. Probably a couple decades. And, of course, in the history of Star Wars, that is a very, very short time. And so Duchess Satine even kind of comments in this scene of, like, some of our people still don't agree with this peaceful path we're trying to take. Like, there's still people of Mandalore that want that warrior tradition.
Yeah, but we cut to a Death Watch member on Concordia talking to Count Dooku. They talk about a plan to remove Satine from power. Cut to Satine and Obi-Wan. They talk about the Jedi being peacekeepers, and kind of another instance of that question on, like,
right.
Are you?
Like, you claim it, but are you really, like...
But look at how you guys function. This isn't peaceful.
It's like, are you really practicing what you preach here, Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
It's kind of like the reaction.
Leading armies.
Right.
Like,
and which, to her point, like, to Duchess Satine's point, like, the Jedi aren't peacekeepers anymore.
No, and we had this discussion back on the second part of that Brain Invaders one.
Right.
Actually, I think it was just called Brain Invaders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was Ahsoka and Barriss Offee kind of contemplating the same thing.
Right. Which
I like
worms were going around and crawling up people's urethras.
But I like that they include this in this episode as well. I'm just trying to move past what you said there.
Yeah, that's fine.
I like that they include this in this episode as well, because when Ahsoka and Barriss are talking about it, it's just like two members of the Jedi Order talking about it. But now it's someone who's unaffiliated with the Jedi Order. Someone that's not even like actively participating in the war one side or the other is commenting on it. You know, so it just kind of goes to show that it's not just the Jedi wondering what their role truly is. It's the populace of the galaxy as well.
Yeah. But as they're talking, an explosion happens, and I think kills some people.
Yeah,
And
some
as they
people
discuss
die.
So they discuss how that could have been Death Watch, and as they're kind of discussing that, the sign of Death Watch appears.
Right.
Someone takes off running from Obi-Wan, and he chases them. Eventually, a fight happens before the guy jumps off a balcony, which couldn't Obi-Wan have just like force yoinked him back?
Dude, I wonder about that in so many different scenes of Star Wars.
Yeah.
But like you have a Jedi standing there fighting with someone or trying to talk them off the ledge, what have you, and all of a sudden they just forget that they have the Force.
Yeah.
Like
it's weird.
And it's like if you were using the Force to like do something bad, that'd be one thing, but you could literally just use the Force here to save a life.
Yeah. Unless you want to, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But either way, he falls off. He jumps off and he's laying there, but he did not die on impact.
Yeah.
As he's dying, Satine joins him and talks a little bit, but he's using a different language that she points out is the dialect belonging to Concordia. So then Obi-Wan's like, well, all right, we got to go there then.
Which I do find odd that Concordia would have its own language when it's a moon of Mandalore and the Mandalorian people once populated Concordia.
That's true.
So why wouldn't they share? I'm just a little confused, like why they wouldn't share the same language? Because it's like it's not like us on our world today where we have different countries that speak different languages. Like these are entirely different planets. Like
yeah, but like you
all
move
of Mandalore
3 states
speaks
to the
Mandalorian.
south, and that's basically a different language. So like,
well, yeah, but you can like if you really listen closely, you can understand what they're saying.
So either way, the guy, he died, and so they go to Concordia. Satine escorts Obi-Wan there, and they talk of what Concordia is and how its primary thing is mining.
Right.
They arrive and are greeted by someone, Governor Vizsla, which is voiced by Jon Favreau, by the way.
And I will say as well, anybody
created
that's watched
the Mandalorian, him and Dave Filoni.
I was even going to say with The Mandalorian, if anybody's watched The Mandalorian, you might
There is
recognize...
a connection there.
Yeah, you might recognize the name Concordia, because at a certain point, one of the characters mentions that during the fall of Mandalore, the reason that like enclave that the Mandalorian is part of survived is because they were on the moon of Concordia. Again, like I said kind of at the beginning of this episode coverage, there's like all these small connections that between different parts of Star Wars media that unless you're really looking for it, you might just miss it.
There is an even bigger one later, but I'm waiting to mention that because of something we kind of find out.
Yep.
So anyway, Obi-Wan gives Satine an earpiece so that he can go check on some things while she keeps the governor occupied. Obi-Wan arrives at a mountainside entrance to a mining tunnel, and he enters it and determines that it isn't abandoned like they thought, and rather houses a bunch of armor.
Yeah. I do want to say as well, with Governor Vizsla, anybody that's gotten into like the history of Star Wars and stuff would recognize that name Vizsla. Because if I'm not mistaken, the first Mandalorian Jedi was a Vizsla. Like the first Jedi from Mandalore was, I believe, like one of his ancient ancestors. Just a little piece there.
And now it's freaking Sabine Wren is the most recent one.
Well,
I feel like we had to conversation about that, but I don't recall it. We're not going to visit it now.
Yeah, we'll get to that at a later point when we get to that part of Star Wars.
Yeah. So he is attacked by a Mandalorian who says that they don't recognize Satine's rule. Obi-Wan is caught. Satine and the governor talk about why she might be being targeted with those attacks, and it's because she leads a group of neutral systems that hinder the Separatist goals. Yeah. Obi-Wan radios her to tell her come get him because he's in trouble,
right?
And she leaves the governor right away and gets on a speeder and heads to Obi-Wan.
I do want to comment on what he says about like interfering with Separatist goals, right? Because it's like for most of the Clone Wars, we get the whole Count Dooku and General Grievous and Asajj Ventress and the evil Separatists, right, trying to subjugate the galaxy, yada yada yada. Mm-hmm. But one thing that, truthfully, the Clone Wars TV show doesn't really touch on a whole lot is the actual planets that make up the Separatists. Right? The actual like representatives, because these Separatists have their own like Senate, just like the Republic does. And though Dooku and Grievous and them could just move in on these neutral planets, right, and just take them over, and in a couple cases we do kind of see that happen from time to time, but they could do that en masse, but that just turns more and more of the galaxy against the Separatist cause. Quote unquote Separatist cause, right? So it's like, though we don't get to see it a whole lot, there is a political battle between the Republic and the Separatists occurring at the same time as this actual like gruesome war, So it's like if the Republic intercedes on these neutral planets too much, that could turn them to the Separatists and help the Separatist cause. If the Separatists intercede on these neutral planets too much, it send them straight to the Republic, So it's like this whole assassinating Satine is kind of a crafty way to try and get around that, to try and break up these neutral planets and make them truly choose a side one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, Satine arrives and saves Obi-Wan right as he's about to be smushed by a mining machine. Death Watch then arrives and attacks her. Obi-Wan breaks free and fights them. They then try to escape and they have to fight their way out. Obi-Wan doesn't have his lightsaber, though. He grabs a blaster and shoots a few Mandalorians before being tackled by one.
I just have to say as well, though, because it cracks me up, because Obi-Wan doesn't have his lightsaber here, but back in Star Wars Episode 2, when Anakin loses his lightsaber and Obi-Wan just gives him so much crap for it, it just kind of cracks me up. It's like, dog, you're losing your stuff just as much as Anakin is. Like, you got to give him a break, dude. Come on.
But in this case, it was taken from him, right, to be fair.
But it's like still just like Anakin, your lightsaber is your life. You need to like keep a hold of this thing. You need to not lose it.
Didn't you listen to Ahsoka's message last week?
But then here in this instance here, who's the one losing his lightsaber? Obi-Wan. Yeah. Karma, mother trucker.
They fight the Mandalorian off, and other members aside from the 5 of them, I don't know they evacuate. So whatever. There's like 3 approaching. There's one on the ground. There's another one. Whatever. As the primary Mandalorian approaches, there's one that's injured, and he says, basically, "You're a failure," and he shoots him.
Yeah. And
then he nears Obi-Wan, and this guy's carrying Obi-Wan's lightsaber.
Which is very, like, Darth Vader-esque.
Oh, very.
Like, you have failed me for the last time. Force choke kills the Admiral, right? Mm-hmm. Like, that's a very Darth Vader move.
Yeah.
Like, your incompetence is unexcusable. Kill.
Yeah. But this guy takes off his helmet, and it is the governor, Pre Vizsla. Now, this is the point where it's like, oh, he's bad. I can draw the connection. Right. In The Mandalorian, there's that kind of antagonistic other Mandalorian, and his name was Paz Vizsla. As we went throughout more of The Mandalorian, we learned more about his views on who he is and why, whatever, all that. But, connection there. Yeah,
and we'll get more into like that character once we do more of Mandalorian and get to that part and whatnot. But this fight does break out as Pre Vizsla, surprise, surprise, with his armor, has this warrior mentality for Mandalore and doesn't like the whole Duchess Satine and peace thing. But he does wield a very particular lightsaber that he duels Obi-Wan with. Anybody that has seen Star Wars Rebels or The Mandalorian Season 2, or even the very last episode of Season 1 of The Mandalorian would have recognized this blade to some extent. And I don't know how much you want to get into what this blade is.
The Darksaber, by the way.
Significance and all that. I don't know if you want to get into that now or wait for a later date.
This is kind of the first instance that we're seeing of it in the Clone Wars, and it does elaborate a little more.
Okay.
So we could probably cover it at another point.
Yeah, we'll wait on going deeper into what this is and its significance and all that for... Yeah, because I do remember there is like a later part where they kind of get into that more. We can that'd be a better spot to kind of go down that rabbit hole.
So, Governor Vizsla states his political views on Satine before tossing Obi-Wan his lightsaber and pulling out the Darksaber, beginning to fight Obi-Wan. His warriors shoot missiles at them, and they jump down a mine shaft to avoid it. This is Obi-Wan and Satine jump down to avoid. We cut ahead some, and they're walking to their speeders. We then cut back to, I think all this is kind of wrapped up. I believe they're on Sundari. Is this where they're at this point?
Going back to the speeders, they're still on Concordia.
Well, they're there, but like I'm saying...
Once it jumps back, jumps back to them on Mandalore. Because they're kind of like escorting...
I believe it's in the...
Or
isn't it in the capital city?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. You said Sundari, and I was thinking planet, not city. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. Well, and I didn't specify there either, so I probably should have. But they're talking about how the Separatists are supporting Death Watch. No. Satine further states how she will never be a part of this war. Anakin shows up, and the episode ends.
Yeah. Well, and as we get to the end of the episode as well, something that some people might have picked up on throughout this episode, and they kind of commented on it a little bit, like there's history between Obi-Wan and Satine. Like there's definitely some scenes that kind of give that, like they've met before. There's some sort of history here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go into that now because we get that information, if I'm not mistaken, the next episode or two of like what their history actually is. So I won't go down that rabbit hole either at this point because we're going to get those answers in the next two episodes that we cover. But for anybody that thought they were picking up on a little bit of like friction between the two of them, there's definitely some friction there. And those answers will be coming very shortly. In terms of the Clone Wars episodes, of course, for you guys listening to the podcast, those answers come in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But,
I'm tired.
we do get the conclusion to this episode, and I like that we're to this episode now, and we're getting a little bit of Mandalore involved because Mandalore is one of my favorite groups or races, whatever you're going to call them, planets within Star Wars. There's a lot of history there. A lot of things are going to unfold in the future around and on Mandalore. I could see like you could do an entire multi-season show on just Mandalore and its progression, not even like the Mandalorian, where like because the Mandalorian's not really like it doesn't follow the history. Like you could do an entire like series and stuff on just Mandalore and its histories and the important figures and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a whole bunch of things wrapped around Mandalore, so I do like that we are starting to get into that a little bit now, and going through the Clone Wars and then eventually getting to the Mandalorian show and whatnot. We'll get some of that history and we can talk about all of that more then. Yeah,
because we've only covered, was it season 1 or did we do season 2 as well?
I think we did just season 1 of Mandalorian. I think we did like the first episode or 2 of season 2, but didn't continue it there because other stuff came out maybe.
Let me look, because I thought we covered... I don't think we cut it off. You slut. Sorry. There. Oh, yeah. Book of Boba Fett. Ooh, forgot about that. What was it? It was... So we got, Book of Boba Fett. We got... Then... the...
If we did Book of Boba Fett...
Mandalorian Chapter 16. So we did do through 2.
I was say,
but there is
if we did do Book of Boba Fett, I would imagine we did all of Season 2, because that picks up after.
So, I looked that up because Season 3 is what really gets into the kind of history of Mandalore and starts referring directly to that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so we'll cover that eventually. But,
yep.
You know.
But like I was saying, though, I like that we're getting a little bit of Mandalore now, because that starts to open that door. Mandalorians are really cool, even though they do a lot of terrible stuff in the histories of Star Wars. They're pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna hold my tongue.
Well, because we did cover Season 2 of the Mandalorian, we even get a little bit of that information in Season 2 of Mandalorian when, Mando meets Ahsoka. We kind of get a little bit of that, histories of, Mandalorians and Jedi. So
yeah.
If you guys are curious on that, go watch that episode of the podcast.
Yep. So, like I said, check out the Patreon if you want this early. More episodes early, obviously. If you're just hearing about the Patreon, you're probably not going to see this one early. Whatever.
But you can see the next one or two early.
And that's my point with it.
Yeah.
So, downloads, reviews, Spotify followers. We mentioned all that earlier, but nothing else to say. Yeah. Bye.
Next week will be episode 3 of Rings of Power. Episode 4.
4. I think 4. 4. Yes.
Yeah, so next week will be episode 4 then of Rings of Power. Now I just want to check because I feel like I don't want to give the wrong information.
No, I checked.
Okay.
It's 4. It'll be 4.
Yep, so next week will be episode 4 of Rings of Power, and then, of course, the following week we will get into episodes 13 and 14 of Clone Wars, which will continue and then conclude this Mandalorian arc that we have just now started.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to listen to this Lord of the Rings stuff, you got to wait 2 weeks. Sorry, guys.
Bye.
Deuces.